All right, we got Benjamin Hutchin. We appreciate the Super Chat contribution here. And he points, Benjamin, here to a key point of the game that we were going to get to here soon. Did the defensive line stay in Nebraska? Yes, we talked about that. I'm completely disappointed right now. And why did they onside kick it? We beat ourselves again. Christian, 28-17 Nebraska, all the momentum, 11-point lead, had just scored again. Early third quarter after 21 points in the first half. That offense is rolling. And, if it worked, then, a la Sean Payton for the Saints in the Super Bowl against Indianapolis, it's like a brilliant decision. But they kicked it to a running back, too. It's also about execution. You kick it to a defensive tackle. You don't kick it to a running back.
Exactly. You kick it to an offensive lineman that just prays to God, you know what I mean? That gets that, one catch over the shoulder and thinks he's, I don't know. He just thinks he's like a wide receiver. You don't kick it, like you said, to a running back. To me, and you said it best, Mark, this was the Super Bowl for Nebraska. This is the first game of the year, neutral site game. We got to do something. Have you heard that? Let me ask you a question, Mark. Have you heard this before? Special teams kind of let us down as a Nebraska fan. Have you heard that? I feel like that seems a little similar.
That was like game one, and it was the last game, and then it was several games in between. It was like that was the narrative the entire season last year.
Exactly. And literally, I somewhere on this page and a half of notes that I've written, I wrote same team, same year. It's the same team, same year. It's the same thing. We're finding new ways to lose the game. You can't. And the reason why I say this, right? Like you can't make that because if I'm not mistaken, that onside kick was in the first half, right? It was right before halftime. Was it right before halftime? It was in the first half, if I'm not mistaken. Or was it?
I'll double check. I thought it was early third quarter. It was after they scored their last touchdown. So it had to be in the second half.
Maybe you're right. Maybe it was actually. It was in the second quarter.
They were up 28-17, so they didn't score after that. And Nebraska scored 2 touchdowns in the third quarter. So it was in the third quarter.
I get what they're trying to do, but you think about so many times throughout this game where you would take chances. And to me, that was just a weird spot to just sort of, you get the momentum, you go up. What was it? 28-17, like you said, in a way that you're up 11 points, two possessions. Why give them the ball? Because at that point, if I remember right, now that I'm thinking back on this, Northwestern wasn't moving the ball. They were sort of stalled out. They lost momentum, and you give them the ball inside, in plus territory, basically. To me, that was the turning point of the game. And that's when I looked over to my in-laws who have been lifelong Cornhuskers, and I said, well, that was the game. That was it. It was special teams letting us down again. And then it just, I don't know what it was. It was just, like you said, it was Thompson went from being, this elite quarterback in the first half. The second half, you go back to it. He just started missing passes. And it was weird. It was like Nebraska is going to Nebraska, right? Like it went back to being a sort of like implosion. Like it was like you held a grenade in your hand and you're like playing hot potato with it and you just let it explode. It just didn't make sense.
I can think of just off the top of my head 3 different games where Adrian Martinez turned the ball over, and I know that there were more, but turned the ball over on the final drive that ended the game. Down by less than a score, you got the ball in your hands, you can win it. There was one game against Iowa on the road a couple of years ago. Nebraska down 6. They drive it out to about midfield, and it really wasn't his fault. He gets blindsided by a tackle who misses a block, and boom, game over. Last year, ironically, week 0 against Illinois, another week 0, Illinois, final drive. They're down by a score. Adrian thinks he can escape the pocket. He gets strip sacked and ball game. And earlier in the game, scoop and score off a strip sack. So he, really cost them with turnovers. Another game, Wisconsin last year. They're down by a touchdown. They're driving for the game-winning score. They're in the red zone, throws a pick at the goal line. Michigan State, he throws a pick in overtime, loses the game. Casey Thompson, bad throw behind the receiver, picked, game over.
Exactly. It's turnovers at the worst part. It's turnovers at the literal worst part, like of the game. I said this, and the reason why I asked you earlier, by the way, if you had to rank the Power 5 conferences as far as defenses are concerned, this is the way I would rank it. I would rank it exactly how you did. SEC, Big Ten. I think third, I would go ACC. Fourth, I'm going to go a little controversial. I'm going to go Pac-12 over the Big 12. But the reason why I'm going Pac-12 over Big 12, Oregon and Utah have really good defense.
Sure.
Utah is losing some, and then you got Washington. Sort of, they had a down year last year, but I think they're gonna be a lot better with Daybor out there. If I had to say, if you under pressure said name one Big 12 defender, I couldn't do it. I think the Big 12 is not a defensive conference, and that's what I tried to say. They're really well known. They've got great secondary play in the Big 12, and that was the whole part of Casey Thompson. I said, this kid is a little bit more accurate version of Adrian Martinez, who's less athletic and doesn't necessarily make the same plays, and is from an athlete profile. When you actually break it down, Thompson he's not as good of an athlete as Martinez is, right? So if you really stop and think about it for a second, okay, so 3 of our offensive linemen from last year, the 3 best parts of our offensive line in pass protection are gone. They're either in the NFL right now, and Cam Jurgens and I forgot the other guy's name, the other guard they had. They're in the NFL, and the other cat is suspended, right? So the 3 best parts of our offensive line from last year and what we weren't great at, which was pass protection, are gone. We're going to go out, we're going to get this kid, and we're going to hire an offensive coordinator. We're going to push the ball vertically. We're going to do all these things. It shouldn't work. I'll be honest, they surprised me. They actually played a lot better than what I thought they were going to do for this. The problem to me, like you said, it just seems like let me throw this back at you here, Mark. Do you think it was, because I heard as the game went on, the announcers were making a big deal about this, and this has been sort of a whole off-season thing. How much control is Scott Frost going to really, give Mark Whipple? Do you think that Frost was like taking back control as the game went on? I felt like that almost, right? Like, I don't know what you thought.
I have no clear indication of that, but I had the same thought that could be happening. And I certainly had that same thought when we came out of, was it coming out of halftime or coming out of no, must have been later. It was later in the game. Yeah, I've got it. I got the page and a half of notes as well. I match you on that, Christian. Almost per line, 1.5 here. And it was when there was 11 minutes left in the game. Yeah. And Casey Thompson had a couple drives stall, and all of a sudden Logan Smothers is in the game to run an option play. And I thought, this has Scott Frost written all over it. And maybe it was discussed. And Scott Frost did make the comment here in the last few weeks that we're going to see multiple quarterbacks in the first few games, if not throughout the entire season. But I think that's a tendency of most head coaches to say, even if we hire a coordinator, especially on the offensive side, that has a big reputation, that it's still my team. And when it gets down to it, I'm going to, as things are going well, hey, we're up 34-7, we're crushing it, you're calling plays, hey, we're good. But if it starts to get a little uneasy, I'm going to pull in the reins and I'm going to take back some ownership. Yeah.
Well, and I just have to say, I'm super blessed in the fact that, my boss, which is you right now, you say, hey, I don't care what you do, just don't curse. Come on, just be insightful. That's all.
That was the
yeah, that I might have missed that a little bit, but whatever. Gee, dang it. No, I think, the great part of it is it's kind of a weird thing, because I thought about this, as leading up into preparation of it, like, what business, what football team, like, go back in recent memory, has pretty much sort of said, hey, we're going to pretty much cut your buyout down in half, and you're going to take that pay cut, And then, oh, by the way, we're going to fire pretty much every offensive coach that you have. And you're going to have to go out and get all these guys that are sort of have had 1 year success and really not a lot before that. And we're going to put all this pressure on you. And you need to give you need to sort of give up play calling to them. When has that ever worked? You know what I mean? And to me, it just seems like Scott Frost is like, he revels in a lot of ways, I think, in the underdog role. And this is too big of a stage almost, I feel like. It's to where he's always expected to win, like majority of the games they're going to play, because of the talent that they recruit. He's a great recruiter, but he just doesn't utilize them the right way, right? Like, to me, it almost seems, I'll give you a great example of this, right? A lot of fans out here can probably relate to this. It seems like Kirby Smart at Georgia, whenever he gets a 5-star quarterback, he does not know how to manage that, right? Like Justin Fields, he goes to Ohio State because he doesn't play him. JT Daniels is at West Virginia right now. Sorry about you, right? Like, he doesn't know how to manage the elite talent he has. And that, to me, that's kind of what it is. It's like, you're going to come to Nebraska and you're going to do exactly what I want you to do, instead of like, hey, you're really good at run blocking, you're not great at pass block. You know what I mean? Like, it's that kind of thing. I feel like it's a weird dynamic because they're talented.
Yeah, I'm not going to knock Kirby Smart's management of talent, considering he's running a top 3 program. I get the Justin Fields situation, but we won't go into that. So we got Mr. TW here. We appreciate the super chat contribution. Nebraska fans deserve better. It's time for the program to make a move on Frost. To lose with that much talent is Chad Morris-esque. Sorry, Nebraska fans. Demand better. Appreciate that, Mr. TW, who also chimes in with Happy Acres Retirement Home could run on the Nebraska defensive line.
It's a little aggressive.